When the world learned that the iconic figure in love and hip-hop, Yandy Smith, had been in a horrific car accident and was struggling for her life, it rocked the globe to its core. Even worse, Yandy's closest friends and family members were left in a state of chaos following the incident, and reports are indicating that her condition is so poor that doctors are predicting she has little chance of surviving. While he rushed to the hospital, the man who promised to always be at her side was spotted crying, but no one was prepared for the bombshell. In the hours that followed, new information came to light. Was this just a terrible mishap, or was there more to the tale? What savage rivalries and sinister secrets may have led to this unexpected development? The drama surrounding Yandy's disaster is far from ended, and her family is in ruins, leaving her followers in shock. Stay tuned as we reveal the story that nobody anticipated because, in the case of Yandy Smith, everything is going to change. You won't believe the startling information that emerged on social media with a level of ferocity that nobody could have predicted at the time. Initial reports of a collision on Beaufort Highway that left Yandy critically ill were vague. But when more information became available, the horrifying reality emerged. Yandy, the daring and courageous hip-hop and love queen, was fighting for her life while lying in a hospital bed. No one could have seen that nightmare, which left fans all around the world in shock and not knowing what to believe. It became clear how serious the situation was, and it only appeared to become worse by the hour. The collision occurred during rush hour. Yandy was unconscious with several fractures and serious brain trauma when emergency services arrived, but it was too late when the physicians disclosed the entire extent of her injuries. The call that no spouse ever wants to receive was received by her husband, Mev. Before her automobile swerved off the road and struck a concrete barrier, witnesses said it was moving at a dangerously high speed. The clang of metal on cement was followed by the horrible sound of tires screeching. Could have aided in his preparation for the adventure that was ahead. His mind racing, he rushed to the hospital immediately, dreading the worst. Not only was her health at risk, but their relationship had become extremely stressed due to months of unresolved dispute and tension. After battling his own problems with his history and his position in Yandy's world, Mendeecees was thrust into a predicament that was more overwhelming than any reality show drama he had ever experienced. When he first arrived at the hospital, the cold environment only served to heighten the severity of the problem. As NC pondered how they had arrived at this point, his heart raced. Was it fate, or was there a darker force at play? Did someone wish to witness YY's suffering in their own home? As the medics worked tirelessly to stabilize her, the situation was equally tense. He had no idea what to expect when he saw Yandy's face bloated and battered, her body connected to machinery. After supporting Yandy through thick and thin and helping her establish her empire, the man was now in danger of losing everything. As soon as Yandy's mother came, she made her presence felt, a powerful woman with strong opinions of her own. But rather than providing consolation, she exacerbated the tension that was already building. She quickly began blaming Mendeecees, doubting his involvement in Yandy's life and accusing him of failing to support her when it counted most. Her resentment of Mendeecees was clear. Her immediate circle of close friends raced to her side, but not everyone agreed, and long-simmering family dynamics began to erupt in full force. Over there, sobbing as if it were your fault, fighting for her life. The charges were like daggers, piercing the air like sharp blades, and her mother abruptly spoke in a harsh, disdainful tone. Devin, Yandy's brother, was also unsupportive, which added to the already escalating animosity between him and Yandy's mother. "She's been putting up with your foolishness for years, and now this happens," Devin remarked, giving him a fierce look from the other side of the room. "Don't think you're going to play the victim here." Yandy Smith's fans were devastated by the news as it surfaced on social media, but as is often the case in the world of celebrities, conspiracy theories were rampant, with some speculating that Yandy's accident was not an accident, but rather that foul play was involved. The man felt trapped, unable to escape the weight of the judgment being thrown at him from all sides, and all he wanted was to be with his wife, to hold her hand, and to reassure her that everything would be okay. But the accusations and mistrust made that almost impossible. But why would Yandy do that? What was so bad that Yandy would risk her life in such a reckless manner? Could it be that Mendeecees isn't the supportive husband we thought he was? Was he pushing Yandy too hard? The rumors circulated scandalous theories, each one more outrageous than the last, that went viral. One even claimed that Yandy had been intentionally speeding in an attempt to flee from something or someone. NC sat by Yandy's bedside, his thumb buzzing with a message that would change everything, was a shocking turn of events that left fans torn between defending their favorite star and speculating about the relationship problems that might have led to this disaster. The fans' words, which were the result of all their unresolved issues, only served to fuel the fire and make the already heartbreaking situation much darker and more complicated. His blood ran cold as Mendeecees read the message, which said that the sender knew the truth about the crash and that a third party involved had a personal grudge against Yandy. The thought that Yandy might have been singled out for intentional harm made him feel even more uneasy because he couldn't understand why someone would want to harm her in that way. There was more to the crash than anyone was willing to acknowledge, and the drama unfolding in the waiting room was further dividing Yandy's family, already divided by long-standing tensions. While Mez struggled to maintain composure as the message he had just received lingered in his mind, while the weight of the situation began to hit him harder than ever before as he sat in the sterile hospital room. Could it be true that someone was actually out to get Yandy? Devin, Yandy's brother, had taken charge of the situation and demanded that they make decisions for Yandy's care. He refused to let Mendeecees have any say in the matter, and this was the final straw. Why are we even waiting for him to make decisions? He's been nothing more than a liability in Yandy's life. Look at where we are now, where she's fighting for her life, and he's been absent when she most needed him. You think you can just walk in here like the hero? You can't even keep her safe from your past, and now look at her on the verge of death. Yandy's mother, as usual, wasn't afraid to express her displeasure with the situation. She had never trusted me, and this moment gave her the ammunition she needed to voice her concerns. She hissed, glaring at M's tension, which crackled in the air like static electricity, and M couldn't run from the torrent of criticism in his every word. "I know what's going on," Tasha whispered urgently, her voice shaking, and Men leaned in eagerly to hear. The accusations felt like daggers to his heart, and he stood frozen, not knowing how to respond. What was even more shocking was the sense of loneliness he felt when he needed his family to support him. Tasha, Yandy's best friend, rushed into the waiting room, her face pale and her eyes wide with fear, and she rushed toward M, ignoring everyone else in the room. He asked in a tight voice, "What are you talking about?" Tasha looked around the room anxiously, but no one was listening. "I know who did this," she replied, her words hanging in the air like a bombshell ready to explode. It wasn't an accident because Miss Yandy was targeted. The revelation sent a chill down his spine, and he grabbed her arm. "I have to find out who did this. I need answers," he said through gritted teeth, his voice full of determination. As Tasha and Means exchanged whispers, the rest of the family continued their emotional outing, and Yandy's mother, now more enraged than ever, turned to M's voice. They had been through a lot together, and even he knew her like the back of his hand. But he couldn't deny that she had made enemies over the years. "We don't need you here. You're just another reminder of her mistakes." Mice had had enough. "I'm the one here by her side, and I'll be the one who will be there when she wakes up, if she wakes up." The emotion in his voice was raw, and the family members fell silent for a moment, considering what he had said. Dripping with venom, "Don't think you can just walk in here and act like you're going to save her. You've failed her time and time again, and now you think you're going to be the one to get her through this." She spat, glaring at him with all the strength she had managed to maintain for years. The walls were closing in on him, the family's divisions were more obvious than ever before, and Yandy's mother, who had always disapproved of him, now stood as an impenetrable barrier between him and the woman he loved. The pressure was mounting, and the tension in the room only increased with every minute that passed. The message from Tasha weighed heavily on DC, and he was helpless to stop it. But he couldn't help but wonder if there was someone from Yandy's past who had truly intended to see her destroyed and who could have planned such a cunning and vicious. But even as he set out to find answers, the family drama reached New York. Yandy's rise to fame had not been easy. She had fought against jealousy, betrayal, and ruthless competition to get to where she was. She had made enemies, some of whom were extremely dangerous, but who would have gone so far as to intentionally harm her? It was becoming clear to Maze that he needed to dig deeper because time was running out, and he needed to find the truth if Yandy had any chance of surviving. Yandy's mother, still incensed, confronted Mendeecees again as his mind was racing with questions, but this time she had a startling revelation of her own. "You think you know everything about her. You think you know what's best for her. Well, I have a secret of my own, miss, one that you won't believe," she said, leaning closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "You really think you can solve all of this, miss? There are a lot of things about Yandy that you don't know, including the things that she has concealed from everyone." The statement from his mother-in-law dispelled his belief that he and Yandy were inseparable and that they shared everything. The discovery left him reeling, for he had no idea what secrets Yandy had been harboring. He screamed, "Tell me what you mean," his voice trembling with a mix of desperation and rage. "What are you talking about?" Yandy's mom was never one to back down from a confrontation. Although he was always aware of Yandy's troubled history, he never thought it would eventually come back to punish her so severely. Was the vehicle accident truly an accident, or was it a planned act of retaliation by someone from her past who would harm her in this way? His voice said, "You think her life has been all rainbows and butterflies, that she hasn't made mistakes. I'm telling you, Yandy has a dark past. Things that would destroy everything you think you know about her. And someone out there is using that past against her." He couldn't back down, even if the revelation was overwhelming. And now who is it? His question was hardly audible, and he stood up in exasperation as he sensed the walls enclosing him. Yandy's mother let out a deep sigh, clearly caught between trying to shield her daughter and telling her the unpleasant reality. Although you believe you can manage it, the reality is that someone close to us, someone from Yandy's background, has been planning an attack on her for years. They knew just how to do it, and they've now succeeded. When Yandy's mother eventually stated, "It's Tasha," her voice shook with the gravity of her words, but she checked the room to make sure no one else was listening. The name was like a kick to the gut. Tasha was the one person he had trusted more than anyone else, and she was his wife's best friend. Could she be the one? For a brief minute, the shock was so severe that he was speechless, his head spinning as everything around him appeared to fall apart. He mumbled, "That's impossible," shaking his head, unable to believe that Tasha would ever do that. "I know her well, and I've observed her gaze on Yandy. For years, the hatred and jealousy have been brewing beneath the surface, waiting for the ideal moment to manifest. And now she's messed up." Unable to comprehend the facts, he was stunned. They had always had Tasha in their lives, helping them through good times and bad. How could this have been her doing? He was unable to deny that something wasn't right as the pieces began to come together. Her strange actions had been that the thought of Tasha, the person he had trusted the most, being the cause of Yandy's predicament, occupied his mind as he moved down the hallway. There was too much treachery to process. When he got to Dandy's room, he saw her lying there, pallid and unconscious, with her body attached to devices that beeped in time. With his head racing with rage and his heart pounding in his chest, he stormed out of the waiting room. He had to approach Tasha in order to really get to the bottom of everything. He needed answers. For a minute, his emotions were conflicted. He wanted to protect her from the world that had constantly hurt her, but he was also angry at the thought that someone in their inner circle had been plotting an attack on her all along. The truth had to come out, and he could not afford to waste any more time, so he inhaled deeply to get ready for the encounter. He turned and walked out of the room, heading straight toward Tasha's apartment. His mind was racing as he knocked on the door, wondering if she would actually admit to the treachery or if she would just keep playing the victim. When Tasha opened the door, the intensity of his eyes startled her. He was unlike anything she had ever seen. "What do you desire?" In an attempt to conceal her uneasiness, she asked. "The truth must be told to me." Yandy spoke in a steady, low voice. "Did you have any involvement in Yandy's mishap?" Tasha's expression briefly wavered between emotion, remorse, terror, and something deeper that I couldn't quite identify. She then said something, hardly raising her voice beyond a whisper. Yes, the weight of her feelings caused her to stand motionless as she uttered the word that hung in the air like a death sentence. Mendy was shocked to hear the confession, which was like a kick to the gut. Tasha looked away, tears in her eyes, and whispered, "Why would you do this to me?" "I never wanted it to go this far," she murmured, her voice cracking. "Yet I was overcome with resentment and anger. Seeing Mandy have everything I could possibly want was unbearable. I never thought it would come to this, but I felt like I would regain control of my life if I could defeat her even a bit." Men in Washington, D.C. realized that after the revelation of the truth, which had come at a terrible cost, nothing would ever be the same. Looking at Tasha, he saw that the harm was already done. The people she had trusted most had betrayed Yandy, and her life was in shambles. And what would come next? Would she make it? Would her unions with men come to an end? He could do nothing to stop the world from falling apart around him. It remains to be seen if DC makes it out alive, but one thing is for sure, their lives will never be the same. It is clear from the conclusion of this tragic and upsetting tale that treachery may happen in the most unlikely of circumstances. Yandy's trip is far from over, and there are many unknowns in store. Will the mysteries of her past ruin everything she has strives for, or will she transcend this unfathomable trauma? The family is split up with men. Dee must deal with the ultimate betrayal from someone he trusted, and Tasha's actions have changed both her own and Yandy's lives. The Yandy story's next chapter is only beginning. Watch this space for more thrilling updates on this developing story. This drama, which is far from over as Yandy's life hangs in the balance and the truth about Tasha's sinister motivations emerges, begins with the shocking betrayal, the tragic crash, and the family division. Will she be held accountable for her choices? Is jealousy the only reason behind Tasha's actions, in your opinion, or is there more to her narrative than meets the eye? Intensifies, we're interested in hearing your thoughts about Tasha's behavior. Did she really make her decision out of envy, or is there something deeper at play? How do you believe Yandy's marriage to M will be affected if she survives this trauma? Kindly leave your ideas, hypotheses, and queries in the space provided for comments below. Your feedback is much appreciated. Please click the bell symbol to make sure you don't miss any updates on this amazing story if you're as amazed as we are. Stay tuned, as we're always available we'll keep you informed about all the drama you desire. We promise you won't want to miss the upcoming installment.